Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing yet another challenge from one of the viewers. This one is going to be to unite, I thought this was a good challenge, to unite all of Spanish America under Mexico or Argentina. So this time I took Mexico. And of course, right off the bat, I immediately invade Guatemala. No time wasted there. And as soon as I annex them, I recruit a couple more troops. And then immediately right after invade El Salvador, right? And once I do that, I recruit a couple more troops. So keep in mind, I still haven't assimilated yet. And then I invade Honduras right afterwards. I have enough to do so. And then I assimilate even more troops. I'm sorry, what? No, raise more troops from Mexico, and then I invade Nicaragua as well with those additional units. And just like that, I'm able to take it over all completely, and then I immediately invade Costa Rica. I just go over and I just basically invade all of Central America all the way until the Panama Canal. Or, not really, I invade past the Panama Canal too, and take over all of Panama. But then I'm rudely interrupted by Cuba and the Uruguayans because they suddenly just declare war on me in a coalition. And the issue is that Cuba attacks exactly where I have not assimilated yet. So that did annoy me. And I had an issue in that I was kind of annoyed, right? Like, it was kind of annoying. And what I did was, since I realized I felt like Uruguay would be an easier attack, I sent troops to Uruguay, but that invasion failed. So I settled for just two provinces. And while I was trying to assimilate my provinces, Cuba attacks once again. And trust me, guys, when I was playing this, it was very annoying. But nonetheless, I just had to keep. I had no choice but to just recruit in Mexico only. Right, I had no other no other way to reinforce this. And the Cubans just sort of continued down and completely messed up all of my recruiting. Right, or just not. Assimilation. So that annoyed me to no end. But soon enough, I managed to catch up with them and then defeat them. And then since I felt like I had enough money, I built a port over in the Yucatan. That's Yucatan. Yeah. I built a port in Yucatan, organized all of my army there, and I was like, okay, that's it. Cuba is going to pay. And pay they did, because I immediately invaded them and completely conquered them. They were a part of my territories anyways, so they're part of the required territories anyways, so might as well. So now I was assimilating Cuba, and now I'd finished up assimilating Central America as well, getting cores over everything. And I let it assimilate for a while, but now that I had 100,000, I was thinking about where to go, and I looked at the U.S. The U.S. is actually very friendly with me in this world, which is weird, but that is Donald Trump liking Mexicans, guys. It's a weird world we live in. But I immediately raised an army from Panama to declare war on Colombia. And of course, this war goes pretty easily, considering I was able to. The Colombians did manage to push me back at some point, but of course, just with a few troop maneuvers, I was able to push them back. Get my troops in and just push them back with my numbers. And soon enough, Colombia was basically collapsed completely. Right, their resistance collapsed completely, and then soon enough, their nation did too. Once Colombia was done with, right, once I annexed Colombia, I was at a choice between whether to go for Ecuador or Venezuela. And then I realized Brazil kind of hated me, so I tried to get a non-aggression pact, but they kept refusing. It was kind of annoying, but then what I did was, just to keep them at bay, Germany was there, right? Germany didn't like me, so I got Netherlands to attack them. And just to keep the Brazilians at bay, I got the Iberians to attack Brazil, as a distraction. I knew nothing was going to really come out of that war, but whatever. And so then I decided that, from my two choices, I decided to go for Venezuela instead of Ecuador. And Ecuador could wait for later. And so I moved my troops, and then, of course, I raised new units in Panama to prepare for this invasion. And, of course, the units, I put a decent amount of troops on all provinces. And, each time I attacked somebody, I checked who they were friends with just to, make sure I wasn't pissing anyone off. But, of course, Venezuela, they kind of, as soon as I started, I was beating them. And at one point, they tried to send units to the front line from their navy. But, they sent, 8,000 troops navally, right? But what I did was I captured the province on land quicker than they could arrive, and then killed them all with my defensive buff, because they were technically naval invading. So yeah. Anyways, Venezuela fell, and right afterwards, I sent the remaining army all the way to Ecuador, and I tried to even pay Brazil for the non-aggression pact, but the Brazilians would still not budge. I don't know why, but like I guess they were just that against me, and so now I decided, yeah, I looked around, thought about who I could attack next. I saw Peru invading Bolivia. I mean, there's nothing I can do about that. Can't exactly just capitalize on that moment there. But I decided to just invade Ecuador. I mean, knew it was going to be an easy invasion. But then the Ecuadorians actually managed to push me back. But in doing so, they used up all of their remaining troops. And so when I counterattacked, they literally had nothing left. And afterwards, I moved my army out and assimilated the provinces. Now, I got Brazil to attack Haiti, and then I raised an army in Cuba to attack Haiti. Now, you might be wondering, why am I attacking Haiti? And I'll be honest, guys, I did this by mistake. Like, I legitimately invaded Haiti for no reason. But nonetheless, I took them over, and then I attacked the Dominican Republic, and I made peace with both. And both times made sure to get Brazil involved so that they hate me less. And then I tried to become fascist and then switch ideologies so that I could re-release Haiti under some cool looking flag, but unfortunately that didn't work, and I just gave up and I released them as a monarchy. But then I immediately switched right back to a republic, like back to normal. I mean, I don't know. But I got Brazil to attack Puerto Rico, and then I myself invaded Puerto Rico. It was, again, the strategy was just me trying to get Brazil to not hate me anymore. And then afterwards, I looked down, after finishing my Caribbean islands, all I had left was the Southern Conquest, and I realized a massive coalition popped up. And of all nations, Brazil coalitioned with Bermuda. Yes, gentlemen, Bermuda. Meanwhile, Canada and New Guinea also, I think, made a coalition against me. It was annoying. Now, I did not really care, but what I did do to prevent any big war and loss of territory was I released Colombia again, but as a border protection state, I guess, a buffer state. And I got the US to attack Canada so I could get them off my back. And then I tried to launch an invasion from my Uruguay territories. That ended horribly. And the Brazilians recaptured it immediately afterwards. And then what I decided to do was I tried to attack into the Amazon rainforest, right? Now you might be wondering, what was the motivation behind this? Well, you see, the Brazilians, if you guys didn't notice from the video, the Brazilians had captured Uruguay, or at least the rest of Uruguay. They completely invaded them. So, my idea was that if I invaded Brazil, okay, from the north, got enough star points, I could get them to force them, as in the peace deal, to release Uruguay as a vassal, which I would then get as a vassal, right? And if I got them to release Uruguay, then I could then annex Uruguay, because I needed Uruguay, not Brazilian territory. So yeah, that was my idea. I looked at Uruguay, I took 21 stars. I was not going to get there, but I decided to try nonetheless. And the convenient thing was that the Brazilians really did not seem to give a shit about the Amazon. But when they did start attacking back, I did start thinking about whether this was feasible or not. And I decided that maybe it's not a good idea. And so what I did was I instead took a whole bunch of territory in the north, right? Now you might be wondering why I did this if I don't need it. Well, I moved back. I annexed Colombia, my loyal buffer state, and then I released another democratic Brazil. I mean, keep in mind the normal Brazil is Republican. I released a democratic Brazil, which would then act as my buffer state against Brazil, while not taking up any more territory. So I essentially invaded Brazil to create a buffer zone. And now I was protected. Just like that. I mean, of course, this wouldn't last for long because I'd be attacking down south more, but still, it was a nice convenient protection. And then I realized that since I'd raised a huge army earlier, I decided, why not just invade Peru with it? And that's exactly what I did. I started invading Peru, and of course, the invasion, it went pretty smoothly, actually. But then the Peruvians managed to push me back at one point over in the north. But of course, with the AI, all you guys gotta know is that when the AI pushes you back, all you need is one counterattack and the AI will be unable, like one strong counterattack and the AI will be unable to stop you. And that's exactly what happened. So Peru was fully invaded, and since I am pretty powerful at this point, even right, even as Mexico normally you're powerful, but then like at this point I was pretty powerful, and so once I took over Peru, I was able to annex the whole thing just like that. And as soon as the war ended, I made my army invade Bolivia, which the Bolivians, to their credit, actually held La Paz, but of course I took over the rest of the country, and then just let them keep their capital for a while. Yeah, they tried to stage a breakout, but no, I just attacked from all sides and completely massacred them, and we took over Bolivia. So now, all I needed from the South America was Argentina, in that Argentina had now taken over Chile as well, and so now they were pretty powerful themselves, and they could actually like pose a big challenge to me in uniting us, all of Spain, because it was just Argentina and then that Brazil because they took over Uruguay. That's literally all that was necessary. And so now that I had 22,000 people left from all my wars, I decided to just move them aside, and then I contemplated about who I wanted to attack first. And finally, I came up on my decision to invade Brazil. Because strangely enough, Brazil was actually the weaker one between them and Argentina, because I mean, Argentina took over Chile and all that. And I kind of did attack Brazil and take like a buffer state from them, so I mean, I guess it makes sense. But what I did next was I essentially assembled the Latino equivalent of the Grand Army, and I went all the way until 100,000 men because I was not holding back on this invasion. And what I did next was I just lined up everybody on every single province I shared with Brazil, like every single border province I shared with Brazil. I I lined up a troop there. I lined up thousands of troops there, in fact. And I was like, it was to the point where I was running on a deficit. I even moved people into the puppet Brazil that I made so that I could make this go faster. And like, I reduced everything else, and then just like that, I decided, okay, now's the time, and I invaded Brazil. I mean, they were friends with a bunch of people, but like, I did not care, right? At the end, this time was when I seriously decided that my goal is most definitely gonna be to liberate Uruguay. Now, they actually managed to take my territories over in Uruguay, and which honestly, I did not care about. There was no chance that I was legitimately gonna defend those unless I like built fortifications and all that. I mean, who has time for all that, guys? Honestly. But isn't the advance from the Amazon went like basically unopposed. However, down south, the Brazilians actually had like a troop presence, but it was negligible because my troops were just advancing. And I actually wanted to take Brasilia, but the Brazilians actually had troops there, and I realized that I didn't really need any more for Uruguay. And so what I did was I released Uruguay, and then not only released Uruguay, but also took a few more border provinces from the Brazilians, so that I could give my Brazilian puppet state even more borders, so that I could insulate myself from Brazil even more, to a greater extent. And so now all I had was like the border with like Bolivia, basically, the Bolivian border. And right afterwards, I moved all those troops to the Argentine border in preparation for the Argentinian, or the war with Argentina. And as soon as they reached, I shifted around some troops, and then I contemplated, I gave the two provinces back to Uruguay so that I wouldn't lose them again. And then I invaded Argentina, after saving the game, of course. And so this invasion started off pretty strong. I attacked a few provinces. I was careful about it because the Argentinians were pretty strong, right? They actually had thousands of troops on the borders from the start because even before the invasion, they had troops, right? And the Argentinians actually managed to hold me back at a few points. They actually managed to push past my front line because they found a gap. They didn't find a gap. They made a gap, actually. And so for me, it was like slow progress. Like in these few turns, I managed to lose more than I did in the war with Brazil. And so, the Argentinians were giving me a tough fight here. But I continued like pushing around, maneuvering my troops so that I try to make sure that there are no empty lines, right? the Argentinians were getting closer and closer to actually breaking my lines, and I realized that now it's time to make peace because they actually were sending a unit over the water, right, to naval invade. I mean, the AI does this so often. But then when I realized that they were gonna undo all my progress, I made peace quickly, and just in case moved all my troops there, right? Just in case they didn't accept, but luckily they did because I mean I'm overwhelmingly powerful as Mexico. But after this first initial invasion and didn't go so well, I bunched up all my troops and I moved them out. And of course, first thing I did was assimilate, right? But afterwards, I decided that I was gonna come back with even more strength, right? I decided that's what I was gonna do with Argentina. And so I held back my troops for a while. You know, my troops, despite being like 20,000, didn't even like take up much of my economy. My economy was just going crazy. And of course, you know, the game kept notifying me that I didn't assimilate stuff, so I kept having to assimilate. That turns out it was a disease, but whatever. And now I waited till I had like 500,000 coins, and I went on a mass recruitment spree all over South America, like all over the coast where the people actually live, right? I just recruited the shit out of every single province. Like I went straight to the province, let's say the population map mode just to check. And by the time I was done, my army numbered above 100,000, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, way 140,000. And to the point where I could line each border province with 10,000 men and still have like room to spare, like units, right? Units to spare. And so with that, with this reinvigorated Grand Army, Latino Grand Army. That's, you know what? That's what we're gonna call it, guys. The Latino Grand Army. To get a justification, I decided to like see if I could legitimately annex all of Argentina right now. They said no, understandably so, and so I went for it. And this time the onslaught was real. Like there was no Argentinian counterattack per se. It was more like a steamroll completely throughout all of Argentina. There was literally nothing to stop my army this time, right? There was David versus Goliath, except Goliath, I don't know, steps on him or something. I that's not what happens, is it? No, David sling. Okay, whatever, bro. I don't know the story. But anyways. Right. As I was saying, I managed to take over. I took over Buenos Aires without a fight. There was literally no units defending the city either. And as I was continuing on to the southern tip of South America, the Brazilians and Canadians formed a coalition against me. And so I kind of panicked and I tried to make a peace deal, but I was afraid that they wouldn't accept it and that they'd invade Argentina and undo my gains. So I pieced out with Argentina too for everything I took. And then eventually they all just pieced out with me, which annoyed me because now I had to just wait, annoyingly. But it was fine. It gave this pause gave me time to just annex Uruguay, because why not? And then, of course, I spent the next couple of turns just assimilating all the sheer amount of Argentinian provinces that I'd taken over right here. And afterwards, it took me so long to do all this, but eventually I finally got through. It took a while, but then after 30 turns or so, I finally fought the last and final war that I ever would with Argentina to wipe them out once and for all. And just like that, we formed Spanish America. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.